It all goes to show you how an ordinary day can become extraordinary in a matter of seconds, says former CT-1 Corson, United States Navy. April 1st, 2001 began like any other. BQ-1 was scheduled to complete a routine reconnaissance mission. Without incident, its flight crew departed Kadena Air Base, Japan, and commenced operations over international waters in the East China Sea. Even the interception of their flight track by the Chinese wasn't unusual. But this time, the Chinese pilot, a known maverick, flew too close to the plane. While trying to maintain the EP-3's much slower speed, the jet's engine stalled, causing the aircraft to drift into the EP-3's number 1 prop engine. The jet put on its afterburners to escape the now damaged prop and sideswiped the EP-3, knocking off the EP-3's nose cone, which then disabled the number 3 prop engine. The Chinese jet went down, and the EP-3 followed soon after. In a matter of seconds, the EP-3 plummeted 8,000 feet. CT-1 Corson contacted the ground station by issuing a one-line report that indicated the plane was going down. The ground station responded, "Nice joke." It was April Fool's Day, after all. CT-1 Corson sent the message again, and the pilot told the crew, "Prepare to bail." The crew put on their parachutes and lined up to bail out, but the pilot, now believing he could maintain control of the plane, told the crew, "We're going to ditch. Start emergency destruct." CT-1 Corson locked the ComSec box, opened the overwing hatch, and hurled the box into the water below. He then destroyed computers with a fire axe, zeroized crypto, and prompted others into action. The pilot then said, "Prepare to ditch," as the plane made a hard landing, traveling at the speed of 315 knots, at Hainan Island's Lingshui airfield, the same military base where the Chinese jet had deployed. While awaiting an English translator, the crew shredded ELINT books and stuffed the chaff into backpacks. Once the translator was on site, some 15 minutes later, the crew was herded onto a bus, where they stayed for an hour while the Chinese decided what to do. A Chinese doctor and interrogators visited the crew once they moved to the barracks. At first, only the pilot, navigator, and flight engineer were interrogated, and the pilot was even made available to the Chinese press. But 3 days later, the crew was moved to Haikou, and all members were subject to interrogation and political indoctrination. The Chinese general came to speak to the crew twice, informing the crew they were going to jail for 75 years for espionage. Afterward, the U.S. Defense Attaché, their only U.S. contact since the landing, visited the crew and said negotiations for their release were in progress. All the while, CT-1 Corson kept a log of the crew's movements, time and number of interrogations, made building diagrams, outlined Chinese military rank structure, and noted the changing of the guard and all other routines and potentially useful information. He escaped from his room to visit crew members, told jokes, and did what he could to maintain morale until April 12th, when the crew was released to U.S. custody. The crew traveled back to the U.S. via a commercial carrier and underwent several days of debriefs in Hawaii, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. They received media and presidential attention, as well as military awards for their involvement. In the end, it's plain to see that the events of an ordinary April Fool's Day can produce extraordinary outcomes.